time for the most overrated coach in the NRL.
Yes.
There's an easy target in here.
Yes.
Which I immediately targeted. So do you want to
Yeah,
kick off?
that's...
You know who the target is.
So, yeah, look, John, I have to go with Ricky Stewart here.
He's my easy target, right?
Yeah, John, sort of just looking through his record. Do you want me to... I'll just quickly read through... I'll go through the whole thing, John, in interest of fairness here. So, 2002 with the Roosters, he won the grand final. 2003 with the Roosters, lost the grand final. 2004 with the Roosters, lost the grand final. So that's an impressive start, John, to be fair. One premiership in his first 3 seasons and 2 other grand finals. He did have Brad Fittler, though, there, John. Then Brad Fittler retired.
Oh, was that game, his retirement game?
Yeah, oh, well, that was a good night for me, that one, John, as you can imagine. 2005 with the Roosters, he finished 9th. After Fittler had departed. 2006 with the Roosters, finished second last, and that was the end of his time at the Roosters. Then we went on to the Sharks, John. 2007 with the Sharks, finished 11th. 2008 with the Sharks, reached the prelim final, John. Good performance.
They had the best defence that year as well.
And they did. I think they came equal first that year, I believe. Yeah, after the regular season. But then Brett Kamali left the Sharks, John, and so this theme where he loses that key playmaker, and then he goes downhill. 2009 with the Sharks, they finished second last. 2010, he quit, or more likely was sacked, John, I think, with 6 rounds to go. The Sharks finished third last that season. Then he had a couple of years off NRL coaching, coached the Origin team, the New South Wales Origin team. 2013, he returns to the fold, John. Wooden spoon with the Parramatta Eels. Somehow after that, Johnny managed to land a gig at the Raiders.
Yeah, walked out halfway through his contract. After 1 year. Yeah,
after one season.
Much publicised. Did that ridiculous thing where he called a team meeting and put an overhead projector. These 12 players won't be at the club next year. And then walked out. And half the players ended up staying.
Yeah. So then anyway, Johnny goes to the Raiders where he's a favourite son. We should point out one of their greatest ever players. Finished second last in 2014. Finished 10th in 2015. 2016 reached the prelim final. 2017 finished 10th. 2018 finished 10th. What other coach, John, in their first 5 years at a club could make the finals only once and keep their job? That's extraordinary to me. But then, to be fair, John, he did start to have some results. 2019 with the Raiders, lost the grand final. 2020 reached the prelim final. But then it went downhill again, John. 2021 he finished 10th. 2022 did reach week 2 of the finals, but he was in a very unsavoury manner suspended for 1 game for that weak gutted dog comment in relation to Jamin Salmon.
The weirdest insult ever.
And then 2023 they lost in week 1 of the finals, John.
And they're just scraping through in 2023 as well.
Yeah, so John, just to summarise, no premiership win since 2002. That's 21 years ago now. Only 1 grand final appearance since 2004. That was in 2019. As I said, only reached the finals once in his first 5 seasons at the Raiders. He bombed out at the Roosters, the Sharks, then won a spoon in his first year at the Eels. I can't think of another coach who'd get a gig at another club after bombing out at 3 clubs, especially coming off a wooden spoon, John. Yeah, can't think of another coach who'd survive only making the finals once in his first 5 seasons. He has a lot of mates in the media who vouch for him when it comes to the crunch, John. So he must be really good to these journalists. I couldn't go past our friend Ricky for this title.
He was my easy one. When I was looking, I was just like, it's Ricky Stewart, okay? And so this is one of the things. He won 1 premiership with the Roosters. Get this team. This is what I looked up, okay? Yeah. And you got to remember this is 2002.
Yes.
So some of these guys are legends of the game, right? So Luke Phillips, he's a great fullback. Brett Mullins, Shannon Haggerty, Justin Hodges, Anthony Minicello. There's your back line.
Not a bad back line.
With Brad Fittler and Craig Wing as the halves. The forward pack of Jason Kalis, Simon Benetti, Peter Cusack, Adrian Morley, greatest English player to ever play the game.
Yes.
Craig Fitzgibbons, Luke Ricketson, and a bench of Brian Fletcher, Andrew Lomu, Chris Flannery, and Michael Crocker. Of course he won the premiership. The only team that could arguably be better at that time was the Bulldogs.
And they were very unceremoniously booted from the competition for massive salary cap.
Exactly.
breaches.
So someone who was massively breaching the salary cap was the only team which was better. He also won the State of Origin in 2005, whatever it was, 2004, 2005.
2005, the year where Andrew Johns just
With
set
Andrew
the
Johns.
world
So
on
that just
fire.
talks to your half thing as well. So he was my easy target. I was like, yeah, definitely him.
Yeah.
Then I went, wait, I should do a little bit more research
And
and
I
go
like
look
that
at
you've done
every
that, John.
single other.
You've come up with another candidate. That's
So
good
actually,
for the
I
discussion.
think Anthony Seibold is the most overrated coach,
Okay.
possibly in the history of the game.
Yeah, okay, well.
He's only been around for a little while. Mm-hmm. He had one season for the Rabbitohs after signing a long-term contract, and he took the Rabbitohs to third on the ladder after they'd missed the finals the previous 2 years. I believe they came 12th and 12th, okay? Then he lost to the Storm in finals week 1. So it was one of the top 4 teams, lost their first round and got a second go. They beat the Dragons in week 2 by 1 point. That was, again, the only time, however long it's been since the Dragons made the finals. They weren't the best team. Dragons just scraped in. And then they were knocked out by the Roosters, who were the eventual premiers in week 3. Then he won Coach of the Year, which I think gives him that rating, has given him the rating. But like we've discussed the Coach of the Year before, it's the most improved coach. It's not really an indicator that you're the best Coach of the Year.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Because he took a team that was 12th and 12th to third on the ladder and a prelim final. Right? It's the most improved coach.
Yeah.
Then he went to the Broncos after walking out on the Rabbitohs in 1 year into a 3 or 4 year deal. Just walked out. Now, keeping in mind the Broncos were still the Broncos at this stage, although they had gone through Ivan Henjak and Anthony Griffin and stuff, and they were 8th in their first year. Now, I never ever give the first year for a coach to that coach because it's their first year. They inherit a team. Ricky Stewart won a premiership in his first year with a team he inherited from Graham Murray. Mm-hmm. Anthony Seibold got third on the ladder in his first year at the Rabbitohs with a team he inherited. He built none of that team. Mm-hmm. Then the Broncos got their first ever wooden spoon in his second year there. Okay, first ever wooden spoon. Then he got sacked and forced a payout to get sacked, and apparently got paid $1 million to get sacked. Now he's at Manly. He's been at Manly in his first year. Again, you can't give the first year. They missed the 8. They also missed the 8 in 2022, but they didn't miss it in 2021. And as I've said before, Manly strangely missed the 8. It didn't really register me that Anthony Seibold was the coach, and now I understand why they missed the 8, because I think he is one of the most overrated coaches in the history of the game.
Yeah,
mostly because people rate him. I think that less and less people are rating Ricky Stewart as a good coach because he's gone for 1,000 years without doing anything. And he's only at the Raiders because he seems to be some kind of protected species. And he doesn't get any discredit from the media because some kind of protected species.
The only thing I'd say, John, is that I noticed this year when there was, fierce debate about the New South Wales Origin coaching position when, Brad Fittler was on the outs after another series loss. Phil Rothfield brought up Ricky Stewart as the prime candidate, John.
And Ricky Stewart withdrew himself after not being offered.
Yeah, so that's where I get my Ricky Stewart as most overrated coach from, John, is that we're still getting these out of nowhere for whatever reason. Oh, Ricky Stewart should replace Brad Fittler as coach.
Something weird about Ricky Stewart in the media, but if you go and look at online buzz amongst fans, there's not very many people who rate Ricky Stewart as a coach. True. I don't think there's enough talk about Anthony Seibold's poor record. So purely from a rating perspective, I think Anthony Seibold is the most overrated coach. And he runs on the back of that Coach of the Year award he got in his first year of the Rabbitohs in his debut year, as opposed to someone like Ricky Stewart, who, again, like I said, it was such an easy topic. Yeah. You email me and say, by the way, this is a topic. I'm like, Ricky Stewart, it's easy. Come on, man. But I went it can't be that easy. And I went and did a little bit of that. And so I went and looked at internet chatter and found there aren't many fans that actually rate. When you see a Ricky Stewart is the worst coach in the NRL post on Reddit or something like that, nobody is defending him. And it gets lots of upvotes. So I think fans agree Ricky Stewart is the most, the worst coach, most overrated coach. But media he seems to be this massively protected.
Darling. He's a darling. He's a protected species in the media. He's a darling of the media. John, I think what worked against Seibold this year in a big way was that injury the pec injury to Tom Trbojevic midway through the year in Origin. That really cruelled him, but I take your point. It's a fair point you make, and it's good for our discussion.
Yeah, so I can't really, like I said, 100% rate this year solely on Anthony Seibold because his first year.
Yeah, let's give him another year, and let's hope Tom Trbojevic doesn't get injured.
So
again
next year will be his second year, and he's only got 2 more years at Manly. So if he reaches the end of that contract and Manly misses the 8 in all 3 rounds, Manly doesn't miss the 8 3 years in a row. They're a powerhouse team. If they were to miss the 8 in all 3 years, you'd have to.
Well, it's all going to hinge, in my mind, it's all going to hinge on the fitness of Tom Trbojevic.
Well,
if he stays injury-free, I think they'll make the 8. If he gets injured again, I don't think they will.
If Anthony Seibold is a good coach, he should have spent the last year in the off-season building to make the Manly Seagulls a more evenly distributed thing.
And that's the tricky part of having so much of your money invested in a few players. That's their high-risk salary cap strategy of having a huge chunk of your cash invested in Tom Trbojevic, Jake Trbojevic and Daly Cherry Evans.
Yeah.
And we've talked all about the Jake Trbojevic being overpaid in order to satisfy his brother. Anyway, John, we'll see how Seibold goes next year.
But Ricky Stewart will... If you were to say who is the worst coach in the NRL, I would say Ricky Stewart. Like, honestly. He's the worst coach in the NRL.
I just don't know of another coach who'd go 21 years without a premiership and still...
Brian Smith. But
Brian Smith. Well, Brian Smith's the only other one who springs to mind, isn't it?
I think his record was 20 years or something, though, and I think Ricky Stewart's now taken it. But the difference is Brian Smith never won one.
Yeah, the difference is Ricky Stewart has won a premiership, Brian Smith
so,
didn't.
like, one of the things about coaches, though, as well, is that a lot of the time there's no one to take over. There's a lot of junior assistant coaches waiting in the wings to take over. But there's a danger from the club where if the Raiders go very poorly and they have to get rid of Ricky Stewart and they bring in someone and it continues to go poorly, we talked about that last week, it's just this snowball effect that will just keep growing. They become the Tigers.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to dig yourself out of it. Bulldogs have been trying to dig themselves out of it since like 2008. Dragons have been trying to dig themselves out of it since like 2010. And they might get some little bits of 2012, little bits where they get out of it, but then they drop straight back down.
The Bulldogs did have that. They did make 2 grand finals in 3 seasons between 2012 and 2014.
Yeah, and then
but I take your point though. Since 2016, the Bulldogs have just been atrocious, to be honest, John. So I guess we're about to move on from this topic, John. But I'll just say that we're all about having the honest conversation here. You would not get that conversation about the most overrated coach anywhere in the mainstream media.
Definitely not.
So we don't have vested interests here. We tell it as it is, and we're going to have far more of these honest discussions.
Definitely. John.